Hello everybody, thank you for listening. This is going to be a bit stressful and difficult to me to tell you this. But I figured I have to do it. I can't write this out because it would take way too long. And I'm about to tell you about my most cruel and even criminal experience that I had with Metro Transit, Halifax Metro Transit. And this happened not much after I first got my first wheelchair, my electric wheelchair, power wheelchair. And I had gone from my home up Portland Street in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, the weather was nice, discovering many things about riding a wheelchair, that, how painful it is when the sidewalks aren't built properly. And I went up and I wanted to see how far I could go with my battery, and I was just, experiencing having a wheelchair for the first time. And as I went up Portland Street, which is quite a long road, I noticed that all the bus stops, the bus shelters, were not level with the sidewalk and had a big gap between the sidewalk and the shelters. So I said, look at that, I can't use any of the bus shelters. And when I went as far as I wanted to go, and I realized, well, I'm getting in a lot of pain, I'm getting tired, and my battery's getting low, so I figured, okay, I'll sit at a bus stop. And I'm sitting at a bus stop that has a wheelchair logo on it. And all of a sudden the weather gets really bad. And I'm talking about like a tropical storm, like really bad. Heavy rain. And I'm sitting on the sidewalk underneath those big transmission power lines, the big thick cables, not regular, just power, telephone and power lines. And when you're sitting right underneath power lines that are that big, even when the rain is going more gently, you get hit with great big water drops, because that's what comes off those cables. And those water drops, they hit you like nails. They're pretty heavy. And I'm sitting there on a route that has different bus routes running on, like 4 different ones, the Preston routes, these different ones. And bear with me, because this story I'm going to tell you is going to be pretty cruel. What Halifax Metro Transit would do to anyone that's disabled under their policies, which are cruel and unfair. And this is the reason why I took Metro Transit to the Human Rights Commission. But I'm going to explain all this to you. This is a long story. Please bear with me, because this is a very important one to show the character of Halifax Metro Transit management and how far they'd go to cover up their cruelty and their crimes and what they've done to me since. So I sat there, and this big rainstorm comes in, and I don't have an umbrella. I don't have a rainproof outfit on. I don't have a cover to put over my controller to keep it from shorting out. And I can't back into the shelter behind me because there was a big gap there, and it was impossible for me to drive over it with the small casters I had on my chair. And I'm watching bus after bus that are all the older flyer buses that are wheelchair accessible with the tiedowns in them. And I keep watching these buses going by me, and they're not stopping. And I'm sitting there in the rain for like an hour or 2 hours, just really exhausted and completely soaked. And finally, a bus driver pulls over, and he opens up his doors, and he talks to me, and he says to me, "Do you know why the buses are not stopping for you?" And actually, I just realized something. Yeah. He said because I think it had to do with the bus stop that I was at that was fully accessible, but they had a rule in Metro Transit that if the bus stop didn't have a little blue logo, which I guess it didn't, I don't remember, but that doesn't matter. He also said to me that the buses that are driving by me are all buses that are not designated by Halifax Metro Transit as wheelchair accessible routes. So here I'm watching bus after bus go by in front of me that are all wheelchair accessible buses with the ramps, and they're the right old buses that I can travel on. And none of them were picking me up. But the bus stop I was at, it was accessible, and they weren't dropping their ramp. Anyway, the bus driver stops and looks at me and tells me that. And I said to him, well, why can't one of you drivers take me down the street here to the bus terminal so I can get out of this rainstorm? And he said it's against Metro Transit policy. We're not permitted to pick you up here, and we're not. This is not a designated wheelchair route. And the guy drove off. Well, when he did that, that was it for me. I couldn't believe the cruelty and the craziness and the insanity of Halifax Metro Transit and this ridiculous policy. And I couldn't believe that they would leave me sitting in the rain, soaking wet in a power wheelchair. And, you know, being an able-bodied person before and working and doing all kinds of stuff in my life, I never in my life was treated with such inhumane, inconsiderate, cruel, you know, people. I was just in shock. I just couldn't understand. You know, we have laws in a civilized society anywhere you go. You can't even abuse your pet. If there's a storm outside and you leave your dog out in the pouring rain and neighbors call, and the cops will come and arrest you. And they'll charge you for cruelty to an animal. But you leave somebody sitting in a wheelchair, sitting on the street, freezing cold, soaking wet, and with no way to get home because they keep telling you that the wheelchair routes are not designated as wheelchair routes. I mean, the bus routes are not designated as wheelchair routes. And I was there for quite a long time. So there's 4 different routes. And I think it took me about an hour and a half, 2 hours before a bus finally picked me up. And I was horrified to think that, what? How could they do that to anybody? Whether I'm disabled or not. I mean, how can you do that? How can you leave anybody sitting in a power wheelchair, stranded on a sidewalk at a bus stop, and not get them out, at least down the street to the bus terminal and get them out of the rain? After that day, I couldn't believe, and this is their policy. Right? And the bus driver closed the doors and drove away when he could have got me out of the rain. Now, that was it for me. And it didn't matter what phone calls I made to Halifax Metro Transit, they didn't care. You get some really ignorant people there that answer the phones and work for Metro Transit because they've got no respect for the people whatsoever. They think they're gods. You know, they've been doing this abusive attitude or of not listening to anyone for so long. They've never had any public scrutiny. The media never reported any stories about their cruelty. And most people didn't know, but most people aren't disabled, and they don't have this kind of problem. So when I discovered this policy that Halifax Metro Transit had, did research on it, I wrote up a paper, and you can see it at wheelchairrights.wordpress.com. Just click on the Halifax Metro Transit tab, and you'll see all the stories about all the horrors that I've gone through with Halifax Metro Transit in all these years. So I filed a paper, a complaint against Halifax Metro Transit with the Human Rights Commission of Nova Scotia, describing the cruelty of Halifax Metro Transit and the problem with their policies. And after a long delay of this going through the process, the Human Rights Commission basically ignored me. But unknown to me, for a while, they continued on doing their cover story. So they finally did a report where certain things were agreed on, that from now on, all buses were to stop and pick up a wheelchair if the wheelchair was at a bus stop that was deemed to be safe, and if the bus could handle a wheelchair safely. So it was up to the driver and up to the person in the wheelchair. This policy of designated bus stops or wheelchair routes for buses was dropped. And more than 2 years ago, all the bus drivers were supposed to be notified of this, and for quite a long time they weren't notified. So still, if I sat at a bus stop and there was a bus going to where I wanted to go and it was an accessible bus and the bus stop I was at was safe for a wheelchair, the buses still weren't stopping. And Metro Transit is a nasty organization. They've got some really criminal people behind the scenes doing stuff to me. The report that was finalized at the Human Rights Commission ended up having 2 fictitious names put on it as the complainants, and my name was eliminated. And I'm the one that did this, okay? I have the documents to prove it. But you look at the document that was put out at the end, it showed 2 people that never filed any complaints. They don't even know who they are. And when the process of the Human Rights Commission was going through, they never referred to me, never invited me to come over and speak. They completely ignored me. So I looked at that and I went, wow, look at that. These people are a bunch of criminals. And another thing that Metro Transit was supposed to do pertaining to Accessibus Access Bus had a policy, again, of offering service to disabled people that are on their list. And you've got to get a medical doctor to sign a form for you to get on that list. And their policy was that you had to book 8 days in advance. Nobody in a wheelchair can do that because you have no idea what the weather's going to be. And if you want to have any kind of social life or any kind of life at all, Accessible Bus was basically just useless to anybody that's in a wheelchair. You know, getting on public transit buses and coming when you want to, that's the way to do it. So Accessible Bus had a horrible policy of not booking 24 hours in advance so that the person that's booking can know what the weather's going to be and can decide whether or not they want to go out to a park or whatever they want to do. So that was agreed on by Metro Transit, and Metro Transit never honored the agreement either. The policy at Accessible Bus never changed. You get a bunch of lazy people that are really happy with the system the way it is, and if you look in the city when you see Accessible buses going around, they're usually empty. So what did Metro Transit do? They started tinting the windows because they didn't want the public to know these buses are driving around the city empty all the time. Well, they are. Very, very few people that are disabled use that service. The only time it's ever used is for doctor's appointments, and that's it. So personal use and and leisure and social events and whatever else, Metro Transit using Accessible Bus is not going to be given to you. If they know you're going to a convention center or a theater or anywhere, they won't even pick you up because they guarantee that they tell you there's no guarantee that they'll pick you up. So they don't put you on a priority when they realize that you want to use Accessible Bus for your social life. And the only way to have a social life if you're in a power wheelchair, you have to have public transit. And Halifax Metro Transit has been so cruel to me. It's just amazing. And my battle just never stopped, and their abuses to me continued. So there's many more things I could say here, but I can't talk for hours and hours. I have other reports, but in the building that I live in, Metro Transit has denied me Accessible Bus service. And I told them, where I live, the sidewalk's very narrow, so I can't park on the sidewalk waiting for Accessible Bus. And they say, well, you've got to be out there for half an hour before we show up. And I said, I can't do that because I'm blocking the sidewalk. The lobby area where I'm supposed to wait for Accessible Bus in my building is not heated. It has no windows. And there's a handicapped parking spot outside where the ramp is, but they allow cars to park there. So Accessible Bus can't park, out of the way off the street by the sidewalk to drop me off. So anyway, in the end, I ended up not getting any Accessible Bus service to and from my building. And all the new buses that Halifax has no tiedowns, as I've indicated in previous reports. And Halifax Metro Transit has done some sting operations on me. They've got cameras on their buses. They can track you very easily with your cell phone. They can always know when you're on and off a bus or not. And the latest one where I got stranded for 11 hours on a street. You go look at that report, being stranded 11 hours on the street all night long, from 8:30 at night till 7:30 in the morning, and I was already exhausted before I was stranded. Halifax Metro Transit has been cruel, unjust, doing illegal things, endangering people's lives, not just people in wheelchairs. I've written many amazing reports to the Disabilities Commission. And I've talked to politicians. I've told a lot of people what's going on. You know what? There's no one in the government. That's not just about me. There's no one in the government that cares about anyone. You have no idea what it's like to become disabled. The minute you become disabled in Nova Scotia, you realize that all your human rights, all your civil rights, everything that the rest of the people enjoy in society is gone. Even a house pet has rules and laws to protect it, but not when you're disabled. And I swear to you, I'm not kidding you, there's not one government document anywhere in Nova Scotia that has the word wheelchair rights written on it. They don't have any regulations on how to build proper entrances, power doors, or bathrooms or anything else. And there's only one accessible bathroom in all. An accessible bathroom for a wheelchair is one that's wheelchair friendly. And there's only one place. There's only one mall in the city that has a bathroom that I can go in, turn around, lock the door, and do whatever I have to do, and then get back out. Because people that are disabled like that in power wheelchairs need to have security. And when you see the little blue sticker on bathroom doors, and there's a stall and stuff, power wheelchairs don't fit in there. And anyone that wants to live on their own like I'm doing and can't walk any distance or use public transit and like everyone else has to have a power wheelchair. And another reason why you get a power wheelchair is because your arms don't function and you can't steer the wheels on a manual wheelchair. So believe me, you only get a power wheelchair if you absolutely need it. And many people that are in power wheelchairs can still stand up. They just can't walk anywhere for many different reasons. And the cruelty that Metro Transit has done to me has been endless. Like when they left me on a bus in Halifax, Dartmouth, and at the old bus terminal, and wouldn't let me off the bus. So when they built the new bus terminal, years later, they made sure that the power doors to get in and out of the terminal are not wheelchair accessible. Go look at my videos, my report about that. Go to wheelchairrights.wordpress.com and click on the page Halifax Metro Transit. You're going to see the chain of events that have been going on. And if you don't believe me, and there's a lot more, I haven't reported everything. And I barely ever use public transit. And the hassles that I have been getting in this city, in this province, like the sabotaging of my wheelchair, and now I'm being denied all wheelchair service. You know, when you're intelligent and you fight for your rights, well, the low class people that are in nice comfortable positions in the government that can't be fired and don't give a damn. Well, when you're an intelligent person and you speak well, they're just going to attack you and treat you like crap. They have no respect for human rights or anything else. Because remember, there is no human rights for wheelchair people. None. Nothing. Nada. And go out and talk to disabled people and ask them questions. But do that randomly. Don't let anybody know you're doing it, because there's many people out there that'll give you false stories because they're getting paid to do it. They don't really care. There's so many subversive activities in our society that are funded by people, you know, with deep pockets to really undermine human rights. It is just extraordinary to me what I discovered, how organized it is to destroy the fabric of our society so that they can put in a control system where you have no rights. Now, you may think I'm crazy, but I'm not. You know, you can go to many of my websites and do your own research. Some people don't like it that I drive around in my wheelchair with flags on it, and one of them is a Palestinian rights flag. Free Palestine. And the Zionists, you know, the Jews that tend to control our government and a lot of things behind the scenes, well, they really take offense to me driving around the city with a Palestinian flag that everyone can see. And it's a long streamer flag that's very visible. Well, you know what? I've had serious threats to my life now on the Halifax waterfront. Ever since I put that flag on my chair, I've had people trying to rip it off my chair, but they can't. So try being a person that has opinions, that has ideas, but you know what? You know, if you have an idea about political corruption and stuff, you can blog, you can write about it, but you're not going to get attacked on the street because you can't be identified. They don't know who you are, but you're in a wheelchair like I am. Everybody say, "Yeah, the guy with the flags on his wheelchair." That's the guy right there, yeah. I'm known as a true soldier online, at truesoldier.com, or you can go to CanadianSituations.wordpress.com and go see my history. We have a really big problem in this world. There's an organization of criminals that are seriously undermining all our freedoms, all our society, and this has been going on for a very long time. So when you're an activist and you're disabled, like me, sitting in a wheelchair, wow, they really love to target me. And the only way that I can help my society to be a fair and just society and to speak truth when I need to about the injustices in the world or in my society is all of us have to do that. When you see someone that's being abused in your society, do you speak up? Do you help them? I haven't seen any help yet.